Thank you, Aunt Vidala. You may go.
Perhaps I should stay. Extra hands make for lighter work.
The most dangerous enemy Aunt Lydia ever faced in the Testaments may not have been a commander, an eye, or even Gilead itself. It may have been Aunt Vidala. And the terrifying part is that Lydia likely realized this far too late. Because unlike most people inside Gilead, Aunt Vidala did not just obey the system. She believed in it completely, not politically, religiously, emotionally, ideologically. To Vidala, Gilead was not a flawed structure that needed reform. It was sacred order. That difference is exactly what made her more dangerous than almost anyone else around Lydia. At first glance, Vidala seemed like another strict aunt enforcing the rules of Ardua Hall. Cold, disciplined, loyal, predictable. But the deeper the story moved, the more obvious it became that she represented something far more threatening to Lydia's resistance plan than brute force ever could. She represented absolute conviction. And absolute conviction is almost impossible to manipulate. That is what separated Vidala from the other powerful figures inside Gilead. Most commanders were hypocrites. Most officials were corrupt. Many of them secretly broke the very rules they publicly defended.
Someone had to do something. What am I here for then?
Lydia understood people like that because hypocrisy creates weakness. Weakness creates leverage. It allows manipulation, blackmail, and control. But Vidala was different. She genuinely believed Gilead was righteous. That meant she could not be controlled through fear, temptation, or compromise the way everyone else could. And once Lydia secretly began working against the system from within, Vidala instantly became the kind of threat Lydia could never fully predict. Because true believers are dangerous in ways dictators never are. The series quietly hinted at this through the smallest interactions between them. Vidala constantly observed people instead of simply reacting to them. She paid attention to hesitation, tone changes, emotional inconsistencies. While other authority figures focused on maintaining power publicly, Vidala focused on maintaining ideological purity privately. That distinction matters, because Lydia's resistance depended on deception. Every part of her hidden war against Gilead required performance. She needed to appear loyal while secretly undermining the system from within. And for a long time, that worked, because most people around her saw power as political. Vidala saw it as spiritual. That made her instincts sharper, and suddenly, moments that once felt small start looking terrifying in hindsight. The pauses during conversations, the quiet suspicion, the subtle questioning. The way Vidala occasionally looked at Lydia, not with fear or admiration, but with evaluation, almost as if she sensed something was wrong long before anyone else did. And this is where the theory becomes truly disturbing, because Lydia's greatest strength had always been her ability to understand corruption. She knew how predators behaved. She knew how power protected itself. She knew how to weaponize secrets. But Vidala existed outside that pattern entirely. Her loyalty was genuine. And genuine belief creates people willing to sacrifice everything for an idea, including themselves. That is why Vidala may have become Lydia's final enemy. Not because she was stronger, not because she was smarter, but because she was incorruptible. The show repeatedly demonstrated that Gilead survived not because of the corrupt leaders at the top, but because of people beneath them who truly believed the system was morally necessary. Vidala represented that terrifying foundation. She was not secretly conflicted. She was not pretending. She did not want power for selfish reasons. She wanted order because she genuinely believed chaos was worse. And in many ways, that made her more frightening than the commanders themselves. Because Lydia could manipulate selfish men, but she could not easily manipulate faith. And the deeper Lydia moved into her resistance plan, the more dangerous Vidala's presence became. Every hidden message, every covert alliance, every small act of rebellion carried the risk of being noticed by someone who was constantly searching for ideological weakness around her. That is the hidden tension quietly building underneath the story. Lydia feared exposure from the eyes. But Vidala may have been the person most capable of exposing her, not through surveillance, through intuition. And if Vidala truly began suspecting Lydia's disloyalty, the consequences would become catastrophic almost immediately. Unlike corrupt officials who might stay silent for strategic reasons, Vidala would see exposing Lydia as a moral obligation. To her, protecting Gilead was protecting civilization itself. That means Lydia's entire resistance network may have depended on one terrifying uncertainty. How much did Vidala already know? And the series may have already dropped clues that the answer was far more than viewers realized. Vidala's increasing scrutiny around Ardua Hall never felt random. Her reactions often carried a strange emotional distance, almost like someone carefully watching for cracks beneath a polished surface. The writers repeatedly framed her near-miss moments involving secrecy, hidden information, or emotional instability among the girls. That positioning feels intentional, because narratively, Vidala functions almost like the embodiment of Gilead's conscience. Not its hypocrisy, its belief system. And belief systems are much harder to destroy than governments. That is why Lydia's conflict with Vidala feels inevitable. Eventually, every resistance movement reaches the same terrifying moment, the point where deception is no longer enough. The point where someone truly devoted to the system begins sensing the truth underneath the performance. And when that happens, the danger changes completely. It stops being political. It becomes personal. Because if Vidala ever fully uncovered Lydia's role in undermining Gilead, she would not see it as betrayal against leadership. She would see it as betrayal against God. And that is what makes her, potentially, Lydia's final enemy. Not hatred, not ambition, faith. Pure, immovable faith in a system Lydia secretly wanted to destroy. And the scariest part is that the series may already be showing that Lydia understands this. That subtle caution around Vidala. That restraint. That careful emotional distance. Lydia does not treat Vidala the way she treats everyone else. Because, deep down, she may already know one horrifying truth. People who secretly abuse power can be manipulated. But people who truly believe in it will burn the world down to protect it. And that realization may completely redefine the ending of the Testaments moving forward. Because the closer Lydia came to dismantling Gilead from within, the more dangerous Vidala became, not as a political rival, but as a living reminder of what Gilead was originally designed to produce. Absolute loyalty, absolute obedience, absolute certainty. Vidala was not simply protecting a government, she was protecting an identity that gave her life meaning. And people defending meaning are often far more dangerous than people defending power. That is why Vidala's presence creates such quiet tension in every scene she shares with Lydia. The show rarely frames their interactions as open conflict, yet there is always something deeply uncomfortable underneath them. A strange emotional pressure, almost as if both women are constantly testing each other without fully revealing why. Lydia speaks carefully around her. Vidala listens carefully around Lydia. And the silence between them often says more than the dialogue itself. But the darkest possibility is that Vidala may not even need proof to become dangerous. True believers rarely wait for certainty once suspicion begins. If Vidala ever sensed that Lydia's loyalty had shifted, even emotionally, it could trigger a chain reaction inside Ardua Hall that would destroy everything Lydia spent years building in secret. Because once faith becomes threatened, people like Vidala do not hesitate. They purify, they expose, they eliminate corruption before it spreads. And if that moment finally comes, Lydia may discover something horrifying too late. The greatest threat to resistance inside Gilead was never the violence of the commanders or the surveillance of the eyes. It was the existence of people like Aunt Vidala, people so completely devoted to the system that they would sacrifice anyone, anything, even themselves, to keep it alive.